The one that I want to touch on is the U.S. Army's H2F program, which stands for Holistic Health and Fitness. Just kind of right when I got into the Army, so that was like 2020 or 2021. I know it was kind of started well before that, and it took forever to actually get on its feet. But for anyone that's not familiar with the Army or the H2F program, it's basically just all these different domains kind of that we talked about earlier. And a lot of these positions are contracted out to civilian practitioners, and then those civilians come in and they get embedded into the brigade or battalion level. I think most of them are brigade level, which is bigger, but they get embedded in. And so what it looks like is you'll have certified strength and conditioning coaches who are civilians who are contracted to be full-time strength coaches, and they're running platoons or companies through PT. They're doing kind of individual assessments a lot of times during the day. You've got certified athletic trainers doing any kind of rehabilitation for injured soldiers. Some units have cognitive performance specialists, which I'm excited to get a couple of them on this this podcast, to kind of share that, because I think that's a huge, I don't really think that exists in wildland at all. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, you've got physical therapists. You've got there's a lot of units that have dietitians that are helping. Just fuel soldiers in the field, fuel them in their dining facilities, just improve the overall nutritional quality. Before I keep going, though, I do want to say, I know I have a lot of colleagues and friends that work in the Army's H2F program, and they'll all tell you the same thing. It is far from perfect. They have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and a lot of things that they have to improve. But I think if we're just kind of looking at the human performance world, kind of from a 30,000 foot view, I do think it's cool to look at what they're doing. And just the fact that they have all these different domains all kind of working together towards, really treating soldiers like athletes, like Division I college athletes. I wanted to have an article I wanted to pull up that shows the value of, this H2F program. And I don't have the numbers of how much money the Army's invested into this program, but I know it is millions and millions of dollars. Just to hire all these people is insane. Even just to buy equipment. I know Soranex got a huge contract to outfit all these units with bumper plates, barbells, kettlebells, all this stuff. Beaver Fit, I've got a bunch of buddies over at Beaver Fit. We know Jason, we got to get him on the podcast. Man, Beaver Fits are going up everywhere. So they're investing so much money into PT equipment, professional coaches, and it's really cool to see. And the data that I want to share, I'm just going to read this verbatim from this article, which we'll post the article in the show notes. But it's just going over kind of the investment side of H2F. And it says ROI data indicates that although it comes with an initial heavy price tag, H2F is paying for itself year over year by getting our warfighters back into the fight both fitter and faster. And here's the cool part. Data currently being peer-reviewed indicates that for every dollar spent on H2F, $8.15 in cost avoidance and readiness gains are realized. That is a massive ROI. And the price tag is massive too. And I know, the population we're talking to we're just trying to fight for livable wages and barracks that aren't falling apart and facilities and vehicle. I know the budget thing is a whole nother topic, but I do think it is pretty telling that when you are investing into health, performance, fitness, people stay healthier and they don't miss time from work and they're more productive when they are at work. And I mean, the ROI is pretty significant. So I want to go into a little bit more on, I guess, kind of what this looks like, or I guess like what I think the future kind of looks like in the wildland profession. But before I go, what are some of your thoughts on what the future looks like?
Yeah, I feel like this is a topic that I'm happy to jump onto, but it's whenever we have conversations, this is Austin's wheelhouse. Like the cogs are turning nonstop in Austin's
Dude,
heads
they
about
they
what the
never end,
future
dude.
never ends. So I can tell that, dude, this is your bread and butter. But I think I think having that conversation of just simply exposing what's out there. Like, I'm not saying that H2F is going to happen in Wildland, and it doesn't need to. Like, people in this job are going to keep performing. The outcome is still going to be there. The fires will go out. But acknowledging what these principles and what this effort has done for the Army and scaling it back to something that's tangible, like the things that we can do, for example, through Rugged Athlete, to start planting those seeds. A lot of these principles in the physical training side of things are being carried over. It's not like it's a separate field. Same exact concept being applied here through what we're doing with our training with our clients, what we want to do when we meet with crews, giving you the tools to leverage and make your own decisions and optimize your performance, make your year round process of training something that's actually talked about. The amount of times that I hear people say, I don't know, I'm not sure what the people are going to do throughout their 6 months in the off season. I have no control. You kind of can. Like, I imagine that if you want someone to come back to your crew and you laid the standard out that we have a training program, it's all year round. You're an athlete, and that training program doesn't necessarily need to be looked at as like something hard. That's not what I'm saying. For example, like right when you get out of the season, there's no talk about transitions. There's no like education behind what emphasis we should be doing. Like, it doesn't need to be a athletic trainer knocking on your door. I understand that's not feasible for a seasonal, but having some kind of a general structure, general outline, and then maybe as funding develops, you start to have more resources that these populations can tap into or get contracted out to come and like serve at some level or some capacity. H2F is like gold standard if we had millions of dollars, but I don't think that those principles need to be viewed as we need that level of intervention. Like, the education side of things goes a long way. Just educating one person on your crew about these principles and letting the seeds grow outward, that's a massive win. And I think there's just a lot of small action steps that can be taken between the two. So I just don't want to hear people, I don't want people to hear this conversation of H2F, dude, it's not relevant. Why the fuck are we talking about this? It's never going to happen. Like, well, it doesn't need to happen to that scale right now. Maybe it ends up getting there at some point in decades, but for now, we should still kind of look and observe at what's going on at that level and try to translate to the best of our ability. Like, what's the minimal cost, most effective thing we can start to do as an intervention? So some of the stuff we're talking about is just pure fitness, a task book, something that can be added on to the education behind somebody on the crew, and then let them decide what they're doing for PT, because now they have all these foundational principles of how to program. When should we be pushing these ends to the extremes, and when should we be backing off? So that's just a small example of a maybe a phase one of H2F could be something small like that, just educating a singular person on a crew to then go and make those impacts themselves.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your point, like it's people just need to know that exists. Like other organizations, other professions are doing this. Like, can you imagine if your hand crew or your engine or your district had a professional strength and conditioning coach coming every day and running your crew or whoever through PT, and you didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to task out your squad leader to take care of it and plan it and run it. You didn't have to, try to figure out when you're going to plan like this on this day. You had a certified professional just do it. And then if someone had some sort of nagging injury or some sort of issue, you could just send them right over there. Athletic trainers waiting for them, and he's gonna they're gonna take care of them. Like they have it all set up. Like that's what exists. I mean, I know it still is, like I said, H2F has a lot of problems in itself, and a lot of it is just literally sometimes one coach for like 1,000 people. And so, I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can do at that scale, but it exists. And I don't think it's some far-fetched thing. I don't think it needs to be either, yeah, spending tens of millions of dollars of trying to do a H2F thing or nothing. What I think, well, I'll say this. I don't even think that's really logistically possible. I mean, if you just look at why that can be successful in the U.S. Army is because everything is centralized, right? You have entire units at one post, so you can, compile all of your resources in one place. Dude, that doesn't work in wildland. Everyone's all over the place, and most of the time in the middle of nowhere, in some national forest or something. That just wouldn't make sense, to
See a
have.
physical therapist being able to make it out to the Klamath and help us out on that ridge line, do some manual release techniques that night.
Yeah, like, yeah, you have to, when you're talking about this, or we're having this conversation, we have to be realistic. And so I think, going the whole like contracting route and, bringing in people like civilians, I just don't think that is reasonable with just the way that the profession is. What I think the future looks like, it looks more like uniformed firefighters going through in-house training and having a health and fitness task book with leveled positions, and they are getting certified, they're getting educated, they're going through courses and learning how to move with biomechanical efficiency, like we talked about on whatever episode that was, episode 1, I guess. We're only 3 in. Can't be getting lost in episodes yet. But yeah, biomechanics, exercise technique, program design, nutrition, pretty simple fundamental stuff. But we're educating people, because if you think about it, there's someone on every crew or every wherever who is designing, who's planning PT, because well, I don't want to say everyone, almost everyone is doing PT every day, and
To some level.
someone's figuring out, hey, this is what we're doing. If we're being honest, that person is highly underqualified to do that. And I'm not saying they can't be effective with what they're doing, but I'm saying if you're just looking at it from a purely like professional standpoint, they're not qualified. They don't have a structured education necessarily. I mean, some people probably do have some sort of personal training cert or whatever. They studied kinesiology in college. I don't know. I'm not saying everybody has no qualifications, but what I think needs to happen is we need to have some sort of standardized training, and I think we already have such a perfect system with task books and the way that they're set up and organized to where we can send people to a 36-hour course, maybe not even that long, and just kind of run through some fundamentals. Kind of that be like the level 1, the beginner, or I should say like the basic level. Then we have an intermediate level, and then we have an advanced level. I really see it no different than like if you're trying to run a saw. Like they're not supposed to just give you a saw and be like, all right, go, right? You're supposed to take your 212. You're supposed to open up your level 1 task book, be a basic faller, and then you have someone like coaching you through and training you and watching you and teaching you, and then you cut a bunch of trees down. You get signed off on a bunch of things, and then you can open up that intermediate task book. And like there's steps. You're getting coached and trained the entire way. But when it comes to fitness, it's like, oh, that guy likes to work out. He's leading PT. Like it's really far from where I think we need to be. And I think developing some sort of health and fitness task book is very possible. I don't want to want to get into it too much, but I am working on that with my agency I work for. Uh, Not really in position to share details on that, but like, am building it out and I'm working on it because I do think that is the most feasible and the most realistic and just the best option to get, you know, ideally one person on every crew or every engine, whatever, who's qualified, who's gone through some sort of education and some sort of training to be able to then, apply this information and help others. And the last thing I'll say, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. I I think it is crazy. I talked about people being unqualified, but I mean, and that might sound harsh, but if you just look at like everything else that we do from a health or from like a safety and risk management standpoint, I mean it's everywhere. Like safety and risk management is part of everything we do. But then when it comes to physical training, it's not there, which is it kind of blows my mind when you really think about it. Like you can kill people, or at the you can send people to the hospital if you are having them do the wrong stuff in physical training. It's from a health and risk management standpoint, like it's pretty serious, and I think taking it to that next level of just getting certifications and qualifications in place would be a massive step forward for human performance, but also even just if we're talking about risk management and safety, which we do in everything else. I don't know why it wouldn't exist here too.